You like the car behind us. We know you do. Everybody does. If you're sitting at home right now thinking you don't like that car, you're just being contrarian.
Big word. Why don't you use just normal words instead of using your school words, and I'll be able to understand you?
Because we're schooling these people.
So next time we're teaching, make sure you get taught.
We're schooling these people on why this is the world's favourite station wagon.
Today on 427 Motorsports, we are giving you the pleasure of looking at the Volvo 240 GL.
Instantly recognisable to enthusiasts and laymen alike as a Volvo. The 200 series was produced from 1974 all the way to 1993. And before that, Volvo made the 100 series, which was literally just this car, but with a different front end.
Literally?
Literally.
Not even like figuratively or metaphorically?
No, literally. This, and I mean, the bodywork was the same from about here backwards. So basically what we're saying is this is what a Volvo looked like for the best part of the 20th century.
What was the worst part of the 20th century?
Probably the bit with all the wars.
Volvo. Coil springs all the way around. Steel belted radial tires. Spring struts up front. Stabilizers both front and rear. Rack and pinion steering. You ride in safety while you ride in comfort in a Volvo.
They weren't unpopular cars either. They found a huge niche with the growing middle class in the later part of the 20th century. Volvo had a massive safety image. Remember, they actually invented the three-point seatbelt.
Like she's waited months for tonight. Mom, is that Jeff? Hello, Jeff.
Mr. Stewart? Mr. Stewart?
Jeff.
Hi.
Jeff, do me a favor, will you?
Take my Volvo.
Over the years, safety has been an obsession with Volvo. Because of all the things that go into a Volvo, the ones we've always valued most are people.
Be careful.
And this safety image coupled with massive practicality, I mean like literally 6 feet of practicality back here, and really good reliability, meant that they became the go-to transport in the growing suburbs, especially in America. In fact, these cars were so popular that when in 1982 they brought out the 700 series to replace it, they didn't stop making these. They kept making these. In fact...
Is that like with the Jag where they couldn't fit a V12 in the XJ40, so they kept making the series until they could fit a V12 into the XJ40?
Yeah, kind of. Only they kept making these because they kept
buying them.
Because too many people were buying them. In fact, they discontinued the 700 in 1992 and they were still making this. That's how popular this car was. It wasn't until the 900 came out that they finally stopped making these cars. So let's take a look and see if we can't figure out what makes these so good. As we've said, the 200 series, that is to say the 240 for the 4-cylinder and the 260 for the 6-cylinder cars, which were luxury. I mean, we have Mercedes, so everything is...
Oh, right, okay. Well, we did have a Jag, so every Mercedes to me is luxury.
The 240 and the 260 replaced the 140 and the 160. Can you see a theme here? And what they did basically was Volvo in the early 70s, much like Mercedes-Benz, came out with what they called an experimental safety vehicle, or ASV.
Did you have to think how to spell that?
Vehicle. And basically they took a lot of the lessons they learned from the ASV and put it into their...
Monotonous everyday vehicles?
Yeah.
Monotonous maybe was a bit strong.
These were their bread and butter. I mean...
Brennan's, today's Volvos today.
They took what they'd learned from the ASV of the early 70s and they put it into the 140 and they made it into a 240. That actually included in early ones. This doesn't have it because it's quite a late 240, but the early ones had a flat front, or shovel nose as they called it. You could get saloons with 2 or 4 doors, although it wouldn't really be fair to call them coupes because they're not.
Yeah, the only Volvo coupe was driven by Roger Moore, so...
That's very correct. Now in the 260 they did do the 262C, by Bertone, which was like a roof chop coupe type thing, which is cool in theory, but in practice it wasn't
pretty. Did it look like something Chip Foose would have made?
I love the design of these, but they're not like sporty looking at all.
Oh Jesus, no! Even the rally cars, when they had like spotlights and everything on them, did not look sporty.
No,
they just looked out of place.
Like it's just a big brick. But fair play to them. Bertone made the coupe. They weren't quick and they weren't pretty.
Like me.
The 6-cylinder 160s had 6s, but the 260s got V6s.
So what we're looking at here is an inline 4-cylinder. Now, as Connor said, the 240s were 4 cylinders. The 160s were straight 6s, but then when they changed to the 260s, as Connor was saying, they changed it to a V6. Not quite sure why. Did we ever find out why they did that?
No, just did it.
Just wanted the cool badge on the boot that says V6?
Must have done. Because I prefer an inline 6, to be honest with you. Like,
oh, do you indeed?
Yeah.
How many V6s have you had?
Literally none.
Yeah, there you go. But all of them were available with a 3-speed Borgen Warner Brothers gearbox.
An automatic.
Or a 4-speed manual, and later on a 5-speed. But this one here is fitted with the 3-speed automatic, and the nicest thing I can say about it is that it drives like a Mercedes. So in 1979, the facelift changed from the earlier round headlights, which I never quite liked, to the later rectangular style, which I think looks much, much better.
I much prefer the rounds.
The car was continually improved throughout their production lives. The early pushrod engines gave way to overhead cam units, and Stromberg carbs, which are the devil's work, gave way to the Bosch KE Jet fuel injection, which would be the same setup that's in a Mark II.
And the Golfs and the Marks as well.
There was a good selection of engines on offer. The smallest petrol 4-cylinder was a 1.8, which is pretty small for something so big.
Yeah, what is this? It says B200 on that.
I don't know.
That's just an engine code.
But the largest 4-cylinder they did was a 2.3. The V6s that came later on went up to a 2.9, but most importantly of all...
Yes, I thought you'd like this bit.
Yeah, most importantly of all was a 2-litre and a 2.4 diesel. But unfortunately, most people didn't really buy them. Most 240s you'll see for sale here are petrol powered, but maybe that's just because people prefer to hang on to the diesels.
Possibly.
I mean, I know I would. I wouldn't sell one.
Yeah.
The price of fuel at the minute.
Do you know what the bestiest thing of all is? Those are both Volkswagen diesels.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, the diesel engines were in fact Volkswagen units. They were lifted from the Audis of the day. So they had an inline 6 2.4, and then the 2-litre was a 5-cylinder, which just sounded probably class.
We don't know.
I have no idea. Well, they never made a turbo diesel, and that just means that.
But they did make turbo petrols.
Yeah, but I'm now just, there's gears going off in my head here. I was like, a TDI and the 240.
You can see the interior of this car is as Swedish as meatballs.
Oh, that's not a cliche.
It's just, everything's just sort of functional, isn't it? It reminds me a lot of the Saabs. You've got some very, very tasty black plastic here, which will be to stop the sun from glaring in your face. That's why it's black. Got some nice clear gauges. Tachometer on the left. Interesting. Big
That's kind of common, is it not?
I don't know, the Mark one's on the right. And then your big water temperature and your fuel gauge there on the right hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Light switch here, which is standard enough. This car has electric windows, which don't work at the minute because the ignition's not on.
It also has heated seats.
Does it?
Yeah. The switches are in the center.
There they are there. Real old style heater controls down here.
That actually say the words on them as well.
Yes, which is very American spec. If you ever look at American spec cars, it must have been some like federal legislation or something.
Or maybe because they only speak English. Or they assume that's the only like...
No hablo español.
No, but they might assume that, you know,
Feliz
this is America,
Navidad.
you speak English here.
Yeah, basically. But everything's written. Like if you see Mercedes that have gone there, it's all written like temp, cool, defrost, finish, and cigarette lighter for your cigarettes. Yeah, just a functional interior. I always thought, looking at these seats, that they wouldn't be very comfortable because they're just flat and square. There's no sort of bolstering to them. But having been in this now,
It's a nice place to be.
it's actually nice, yeah. Not taut vinyl, but I suppose it does the job.
Wipe down
Yeah.
for whenever you hit the roof. When it's been a while. Depending on what you get up to in your lovely Volvo estate. You bought the estate for a reason, like.
Oh, 6 foot of bed
For
space.
big loads.
Sweet. That's Mercedes material for the inside of the glove box there.
Do you think they shared notes?
What if we made the same glove box interiors? It's very blue. You know I like that. Do you like that?
Are you asking the audience
no,
rhetorically, or are you asking me personally?
Audience can tell us in the comments. You can tell me now.
I'm indifferent.
I like it. It's very of its time. There was the usual selection of trim levels to let you know where you stood in the grand scheme of Volvos. This one is a GL, which is actually one
For good looking
Yeah, that's it. That's what it stands for.
or good lad?
GL.
Because whenever you get where you're going in this thing, you're like, GL, but good lad.
GL. Grand Lux.
Is that what it stood for?
Yeah, but it's actually one from the bottom trim levels, which was DL or Lux or something.
Decent
like
looks.
that. DL. The highest trim was GLT until 1981 when it became Turbo. That was the highest trim.
Oh, because everything in the 80s was a turbo, apparently.
Turbo was the byword for good. And there were special trim levels like GTX, which must have been like a funeral,
Castrol edition.
like a funeral trim level. Polar, which was like basically Euro poverty spec.
Really good air conditioning.
And then there was Super Polar, which was actually decent spec with leather seats and electric windows and stuff like that. After 1981, apparently all the trim levels basically ceased to mean anything. You got it what way you respect it. You know?
And you liked it.
And you just liked it. Torslanda, which is the one everyone brags about in the UK, which was basically a UK only car, or mostly UK, and all you got for Torslanda was like a choice of 3 different colours, like it was nothing special.
So 1/3 of all of the 240s sold were actually estates, and considering there were only 3 body styles, that just means that all of them sold equally well. But you can see why. I mean, there's 41 feet of cargo space in here. Not feet, because obviously it's only 6 feet long, but
Square
you
feet.
know, square feet, yeah. No, not hip feet, just
Don't
square
be a-
feet. Don't be a rectangle. And like all good estates, or station wagons as the Americans call them, you can fit it with 7 seats.
Does this one
Never
have
gonna
7
use them.
seats? No, never gonna use them.
No, I don't think it does have 7 seats, unfortunately.
Sad.
Otherwise, the value would have been way up.
One thing I always liked about the Volvo 200 series estates is this.
The fact that they have windows.
No, you can see the roof line from the saloon, which would have come back down here, and then they just
It works a lot better than some estates out of saloons I've seen.
I think it's class. I really like it. And there's a big rectangle.
Now that you pointed it out to me, I actually can't unsee that, and it's. I don't like it. It looks like the doors aren't meant to be on this.
Oh, it looks lazy as hell. They should have changed the door with it, but I really like it. Coming right here, you got your nice big tailgate. You got your GL.
You're good looking.
Let people know you're good looking. You've got your catalyzer to let people know you love the environment.
Which looks remarkably like a Chrysler badge. The amount of times I've looked at that and thought it said Chrysler.
Very Chrysler.
But it's a good car, so it can't say Chrysler. Spare belts, because you can't go anywhere without carrying spare belts.
It's a good idea. It's very nice.
But they're all different types, and they are
They're actually
all old.
They actually might take the 3 of those. So I think there's like a dual belt in the up front.
What does this think it is, a Land Cruiser? I remember when I worked in the motor factories, anytime somebody came looking a belt for a Land Cruiser, I had to give them 2, and they shouted at me. He's like, I only want 1. I was like, you have to replace 2. Like, but I only want 1. It's only the alternator belt. I'm like, the alternator takes 2 belts.
That's interesting.
Had to show them the
didn't know.
diagram and everything, and like, no, this is the way it is.
There's 2 belts in that.
Yep.
Was that for like a early 90s to late 90s
Nope.
Land Cruiser? That was a new one.
That was early 2000s.
This is so off topic.
Yeah.
But that's interesting.
Right, so you've heard enough from the encyclopedia of knowledge that is Connor about the Volvo 240 in general, but what about the one we actually have here? Well, this one's a bit more special than just a plain old Volvo, because apparently it was in a TV show that none of us have actually watched, and apparently hit #1 on Netflix, so it must be good.
It has to be.
That's the way it works. Nothing that's popular. can be
Popular
bad.
equals good, yeah.
Just look at the charts. So they're all number ones. They're all
Class.
absolute hits.
Class music.
Yeah. So therefore, this must be an amazing piece of machinery because it was in a number one TV show.
Yeah.
Was there any other number one TV shows that were shite?
I don't know what does get number one. I don't know.
Well, people watch EastEnders all the time. And EastEnders is shite,
Oh.
so we can't really take ratings as gospel. But anyway, so this one was in a TV show called Winx on Netflix. Doesn't really add any character value to it, but we'll have a look around it anyway and see what it's like.
Nice.
So as you can see, it's a little bit pre-loved. So it's in immaculate condition, but there are signs of it was driven. It's only got 118,000 miles on the clock, which is nothing. So there's taxis out there with 3 times that and half the age. So, it's fairly broken.
That's it.
It seems to be completely original from what we can see. It's even got the original etching on the mirror glass, so no thieving gits from England would steal it. Although they could just scratch it out. Oh, actually, it doesn't even match anymore because nice is on southern bits. So
That's
it
right.
means
Yeah, so you
it
can
could
steal
be
it.
stolen. Who knows? If this was your Volvo, please write in. Yeah, so as you can see, it does just have a couple of age-related nicks. It's been very well looked after. The engine bay is immaculate. The interior is spotless. The outside, obviously, isn't really.
I think it looks grand.
It looks okay as a daily. Like, it's not going into a museum anytime soon unless that show really does take off.
Yeah.
Which apparently it already has. Cause
Yeah, it has taken off, but
it's in the sky now. It's soared. Hopefully it'll land at some point. One cool feature that we only noticed when we got here actually is the bumpers. Now, as you can see,
I think you were right.
yeah, most vehicles would have your chrome trim in the bumpers, but the way Volvo did it was they had the chrome trim on the top, and instead of having a mandated reflector in the lights, which they might have as well, yeah, they have as well, but as an extra precaution, they have used where you would normally put a chrome strip and put red reflector on.
Mm-hmm.
So that, if you're coming up behind it in the middle of the night, you can tell how wide it is so you don't drive into it.
And the front actually has a white reflector,
Yeah.
I noticed.
So that's a cool little safety feature because, as we know, Volvo are pioneers of safety, as
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier.
They invented the 3-point seatbelt.
Yeah, that's the exact line you used. Yep.
Yeah. Headlight washers, which are very Scandi.
Yeah, that's very scanny. You only really see them on these and Saabs and
Mercs where they respect.
Mercs with respect. It was a sign of wealth to have white headlight washers on, because if it was only on Mercs and Volvos and Saabs, obviously you've got money about you. They would have it in the Scandinavian countries because obviously road grime is a big thing over there. So, and I'm not talking about like the music grime, I mean actual like dirt. So they need to keep their headlights clean. Although I am noticing there are no washers. Oh, no, the washers are actually part of the wiper, which is really cool. So it's like a Peugeot 306.
Yeah.
Because most of them would have a big unit here on the bumpers that scout water up, but or it's got xenons and it needs to have them by law, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
But yes, this one is in a lovely shade of blue. It has the factory tinted windscreen.
Nice.
So whenever you're a child and you're looking up, the sky looks really, really blue. I remember that in Dad's old Volvo we had, which then would find itself in a hedge later that day because the handbrake never really worked properly. We used to get people calling to the house to say, Carrie, your Volvo's in the hedge again. Dad would have to go out and get it.
Just wanted to leave.
Yeah, it's like whenever people call and say that the dog has like got out of the garden or something. Oh, your dog's in here.
Volvo's
Carrie,
out.
your Volvo's in the hedge.
Volvo's escaped again.
Volvo's in the hedge again.
You're tired, darling. You want me to ride?
Volvo, dynamic safety makes safe driving fun.
So there you have it. There's our quick look at the Volvo 245. Did we even explain it was 245? I don't think we did.
Was it 245? It was just 240. What makes it 245?
5-door.
5-door.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So why is it everyone's favourite estate? It's because it's classless. It's because anybody can drive it. It's a car for everybody, and it does everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you that. It looks as in place outside solicitor's office as it would outside.
Outside the council house.
Outside the council
just
house.
say it, yeah.
Yeah. Aye, but that could be
Or,
the same person going to the solicitors.
Exactly. You could take this anywhere.
And it'll get there and back
That's it too.
whilst carrying your house. It's timeless as well. It's the lack of. It could be in any TV show set at any period and it would fit.
Yeah.
They just haven't aged, despite the fact that everything else boxy from the time would look really dated. Classless and timeless.
That's it. That's why it's the best.
And when you rightfully disagree, please feel free to put it in the
put it in the
comments and let
comments
us
if you
know
want.
why Connor is wrong, because I don't necessarily agree with him, but that's what it's all about.
That's it. That's all you're getting. Thanks very much for watching. As always, I've been at Hughes Corporation, and the man behind the camera now is at Tom
Say it. Go on.
Patterson.
It's literally my name with a dot in the middle. It can't be that hard. Yes. Follow us on everything. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you in the next one.
Good luck.
Good luck.